Hey guys, welcome back to Maxplained Dawn of War Unification. Today I have an updated faction guide for you, this time for the Tyranids, the totally not Zerg space bugs of Warhammer 40k. Just to make it clear, this idea was before StarCraft, so you could argue who stole from who. Yeah, they're very special in the sense that they do not have the, let's say, normal units, in the sense that you have like vehicles and infantry and stuff. They do have infantry in the form of the small brutes, but all the higher brutes are like demonic armor, like demon armor medium or high, depending on what unit it is. So they have no vehicles, they have no builder unit, no traditional builder unit, they have global abilities, they have a lot of different things going on for them, also in the economy, which we will jump into. I will jump into the save game so we can go into the nitty-gritty. And here we are in the save game where we see total beautiful Tyranid base here. Before we go into the units and stuff, we will talk about the resources and unit caps. And as I said already, both of them are very special. You have requisition. You get requisition, but a different way that you normally would. I mean, you still get it from your HQ, but only 5 in your first tier, then 10 and 15 as you tier up, so very low requisition from your HQ. You get requisition from your strategic point, but not from the listening posts. But the listening posts, you can, if you have a listening post, you can build up to 3 reclamation pools per listening post, which increases your income by +6. So you can think each of these reclamation pools as one listening post add-on. So you still have the 24 for an LP3, but you get there a little easier as these reclamation pools do not increase in cost the more you have. So that's that. Requisition is drained by 2 things. You have an ability on your listening post which drains your requisition income if you use it. I will talk what it does when I talk about buildings. And your very late game structured capillary tower decreases your income by 10%. Now about influence. Influence is your second resource. The power here is just because I have the dev mode on. If you normally play Tyranids, you do not have any power here. You have but influence. Influence is your second resources. This has also a threshold similar to how faith is handled for Sisters of Battle. But you start off with one threshold enabled. And first you can only have 20% influence, and then every Spore Chimney listening post you have increases the influence you can have maximum by +16. So if you can do math in your head, you need 5 listening posts to get a maximum of 100 influence. So this is the maximum. But how do you gain influence? Influence is gained from your HQ. I have a little overview here on screen because requisition is pretty easy to understand, but influence I have here. Looking at this, I also see that I forgot about the Magma event. This is your select deposit building, which increases your rec income by a big 50. So this is very nice to have on the maps with a select deposit. Back to influence. Influence is gained from the HQ, as I said, with 0.5. All these values are the values you would normally see here. And like for requisition here, it's 120 requisition every 10 seconds. So everything you see here, the plus 0.5 is 0.5 every 10 seconds. So it's actually 0.05 per second. But enough of that. This doesn't change with the add-ons. It's always just 0.5 from the HQ. What is a big kicker is the listening post. The listening post, the Spore Chimney, gets you plus 2.4. And if you upgrade it, it increases it all every time by 0.5 to the maximum of 3.4. There is an maximum, however, I discovered there's a maximum of influence income from your HQ and your listening post of plus 10. Everything higher doesn't count. So if you upgrade all your listening posts, your 4 or 5 listening posts, at some point it doesn't increase your income anymore. I have no idea why that is, but it is like that in the code. And then lastly, you have your capillary tower, which increases your influence by a big amount by plus 25. You see that some of these values seem a bit high, or how should I say, I put it the other way around. I have some ideas to adjust these values mainly for influence because currently it is like you build Spore Chimneys and you don't really need to upgrade it because you have this maximum of 10, so you only need to upgrade 1 or 2 spore kimnates, and then that's it, and you get to the maximum of plus 10. That's something I think should be changed. In return, I would probably reduce the spore kimnate income a bit, and most importantly, decrease the income by the capillary tower. It's like currently you are just saving up in tier 4 just to get the capillary tower, and then you do not have to think about influence anymore, just pop buildings all around the map and stuff like that. So that's a bit problematic in my book, but in turn I would probably also remove the requisition decrease from the capillary tower. So if you see this guide in a next version, you can look this economy overview in my drive, where I have the updated version whenever that is. Okay, that's the economy. Now let's talk about unit caps. Unit caps are also not the traditional. It is your brood cap and your support cap. Your support cap is basically your bigger broods. You start off theoretically with 0, 0, but your HU gives you 5 brood cap. So that you start off with 5, 0. And you increase the brood cap with your production buildings. With the HU, of course, you can build a second HU, but it's very expensive. But one of your tier 1 buildings, the County Brood Hive and the Tyranids broods both increase your brood cap by plus 5. So you need to build multiple them if you want to get to the maximum, which is 2020 for them. And your support cap is increased by your Xenotype Brood, Womp, your Carnifex Chamber, which is your tier 2 production buildings, and your tier 4 building, the Trigon Wyron, also increases your support cap by plus 5. The maximum, as I said, is 2020. So if you are getting locked, you want to get more of these buildings. One last unit there is, which is the Lictor, which is a commander-like unit you have here. This increases your brood and support cap by 1. But it doesn't cost any brood itself, so it's more kind of a commander unit. Gives you the little bonus that you can have more units on the field. It's 1 doesn't sound much, but you can have up to 3 lictors, so, and you will use them anyway in a sense, so then you can get more stuff out by just having them. Okay, so that is your unit caps and resources. Before we start to the buildings, I want to make sure that I tell you about the global abilities. You get access to your builder and thus your global abilities when you click this little brain icon here. This is actually an entity that is located always at your HQ, and you can see it with a little 4. You can give them a number. So if you don't want to click always or misclick sometimes and think, I can't click this stupid brain, you can also just hotkey him to, like, that's a number. For me, it's usually the number 4, and then you can use here the different abilities. There's like the drop hive, which is basically your building menu, where you can get the buildings. There's also drop defense biostructure, which has your turrets. And lastly, there are 4 global abilities. There are 4, and they are also tier locked. The Shadow in the Warp is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. In tier 1, you get Shadow in the Warp. You can disable in special abilities of a target squad or unit for a certain duration. Then in tier 2, you can get Synaptic Grip. All Tyranids units are under Synapse. What a Synapse is, I will talk about when we talk about units. But in short, there are Synapse creatures and non-Synapse creatures, and Synapse creatures will need some Synapse support to function completely. Then you have in tier 4, What the, which is an ability that you can use on an enemy vehicle, which has a random effect, which either gets loss of control, heavy damage, and can cause movement or combat impairments. Basically, it can not move, it cannot shoot, it can lose you can lose control, and it can deal heavy damage or nothing at all. So there's one of these things happening. In previous versions, it also could just outright kill a vehicle. So this is been a bit nerfed. It works on every vehicle, so even on Titans, as far as I know. And lastly, we have Jones is acting strangely, which is your tier 4 ability, which can be used on a squad, on an infantry unit basically, which is infested in volatile spores, causing it to explode. Basically, it's kind of like the stinger ability of the Dark Elder, but globally. So you can use it on a single squad member basically explodes, deals hefty damage, and yeah, morale breaking the enemies. So very nice late game. Very expensive though, so you cannot spam it like there's no tomorrow. I mean, if you have the Capillary Tyrant currently, you can spam it like there's no tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about the buildings. We start with the HQ. The HQ does more or less HQ things. Get your capping units, which is your gene stealers, gets your first commander out, can upgrade, and most buildings you see have the Synapse Aura and the Toxic Miasma. Synapse grants Synapse to non-Synapse creatures, which we will talk when we talk about the brutes, and Toxic Miasma is this green little thingy you see, which slows down enemy units and reduces the damage they deal. So getting into melee with these structures will give you some debuffs basically. Also some researches for your gene stealers are located here. Your tier 1 production structures is your Gaunty Brute Hive and your Tyrannicus Brute Spire. In the Gaunty Brute Hive you get all your Gauns, which is your small brutes, Spine Gauns and stuff, also upgrades for them, and yeah, stuff like that. Then you get the Tyrannicus Brute Spire, which is your second tier 1 building where you can get in tier 1 Elictor and a Ravener. Everything else is locked behind tier 2. You get upgrades for your Elictor and for your other brutes you have in here. In tier 2 you have 2 more structures. You have the Xenotype Brute Womp, which produces your first, these are for bigger brutes, is your Sun Tropes and Biowar, so your support, kind of support units you have here. And then you have the Carnifex Chamber, which produces in tier 2 and even in tier 3 and tier 4 units. These are your combat units, like your big combat units in melee and range, depending on what you get, and also gets upgrades to those units here. Here are also some upgrades in the Tyrannicus Brute Spire for your Hive Tyrant. In tier 4, or your tier 4 building, is your Trigon Baron, where you get your Relic unit and your tier 1 Titan. Some of these buildings you can see can deep strike, because like the Trigon can be deep straked in and your Raveners can be deep straked in. Your economy buildings, I have already said, are your Magma Vent, your Listing Post and your Reclamation Pool. In your Reclamation Pool you can also build Ripper Swarms, which are kind of swarmy-like units. You can get a hell of a lot of them. And they are infantry, but locked in behind tier 2, are pretty good against buildings, I have heard. And they can get like tunnel networked kind of between these reclamation pools. And yeah, you can build all buildings globally from this taskbar over here. Like globally, there's no building radius. So if you have a reclamation pool behind enemy lines, you can get some surprise Ripper Swarms. About your listening posts, I have already told you can get this ability on and off. You can also produce spore clusters here, which are units that you can deep strike in. I will tell you more about them once I am talking about units, and can some generic upgrades like that your Synapse Aura and your Miasma from your buildings gets bigger. So if you see it here, now the green glow is a little more around. For defense you have your Bioplasma Vane, which is supposed to be only good against infantry and can be upgraded to get anti-vehicle capabilities, but there's currently a remnant of the previous implementation that it spawns randomly with anti-infantry and anti-vehicle weaponry basically. So this will be fixed whenever there's the next version out, so that it will always be anti-infantry and can be upgraded to anti-vehicle. The last building I want to tell about is the Capillary Tower, which is your kind of Titan unlock, but also more about a resource building, as it provides you a hell of a lot of influence currently, but it also has some auras around. While present, the following effects are available. Biostructures heal twice as fast, greatly increases influence gain, that's I said, and all nearby turrets abilities recharge faster. Also an aura for units around that morale is reduced, has Toxic Miasma of course. So this is a more of a, how should I say, income and defensive buff offensive building. So you can get it in the middle of the map. It also has a very high armor class. It will not die as easily. So you can put it in the middle of the map. So this should be your buildings. Lastly, I want to say about the spore chemists, they can only get one spore mine loaded in. You can get them produced to 100%, but your actually your how much you can hold is only one. I think this is mostly it about the buildings. We will now jump over to the units. One last thing about the reclamation pool is I think the only building apart from the turrets that do not get you toxic miasma and synapse. Okay, the Maxplained also has no toxic miasma, it only has synapse, but all other buildings you see here always have the synapse and toxic miasma. Okay, now to the units. One thing about the units before we go into detail of these units. I told you about synapse and non-synapse creatures. You see, if a unit has a morale bar, it is a synapse creature. So Tyranids do not regenerate morale at all, basically. If they are in combat and your morale gets to 0, they are basically morale broken and that's it. However, there are some units that are synapse creatures. You can see it in this little aura they have here. And they also have no morale bar. They provide an aura that makes your units here morale immune. So they are immune to any morale effects. So flamers and stuff will not take effect of them. The aura range is about normal aura range. So if these units get out of range, they are still susceptible to morale. There are also some non-synapse creatures like your bigger units later, like for example this kind of tier 4 unit, and your carnifexes. They are do not require synapse and do not provide synapse. So this is your few, how should I say, exclusions to this. So the bigger brutes do not require synapse, the smaller do need synapse to work. The synapse aura, however, also gives you a secondary bonus, which is that it reduces ranged and melee damage income by I think 5 or 10%. So it's not big, but it is a good bonus you want to have, especially on these smaller gaunts. Okay, now about the units. Actually, one thing I forgot, but I will tell you here, is your first unit you get is your Gene Stealers. The Gene Stealers are your capping unit, relatively fast. Do not start with this big of a squad size, but there are researches for them which are called acclimatizations. You will hear that throughout the units a bit, that increases their squad size, increases their stats, including their morale. And there are some other researches later on that makes them invisible, as you can see here. Another one which increases their damage by quite a lot later on. So they start off very mediocre-ish. They can fight other capping units a bit, but are very expensive, as you can see, with 40 requisition. But the tier 2 and tier 3 upgrades to them make them very, very worthwhile later on. There's also one upgrade, you will hear this only here and for the gaunts, which is called Without Number. You can get it from HQ here. A swarm of Gene Stealers, it's called basically. If you research it, which is very costly in influence, it will make all your Gene Stealers free of cost, but the production time of them is increased by a bit. So you can then get Gene Stealers for free basically on the field. Reinforcement always costs, of course. The other tier 1 units are mostly gaunts. You have your Spine gaunts, which is your absolutely chaff gaunt unit, very cheap, very swarmy, is good in ranged and melee. And the biggest thing I find for them, as there are so many, that their morale damage is pretty good, as there are so many of them. They also start not with 18 squad size, but smaller. But there's also the Gaunt acclimatization research, which increases the squad size and stats of these guys. And yeah, that's about it for them. Your other Gaunt is your Termagaunts, which is your ranged Gaunt unit, which is mainly for ranged. Similar to the Gaunts you see here, it doesn't start with 18, but with lower. From the Gaunt acclimatization research, and in tier 2 it can get some Devourers for increased range capabilities. Your other tier 1 Gaunt is your Homer Gaunts, which is your melee Gaunt, has a bit more HP and gets a leap in tier 2 with the what is it called again? These do I have it enabled still? There's the what are they called again? They get this little adrenal glands. It increases their movement speed and gives them a leap. So in tier 2 they can get really good in melee. Otherwise, yeah, your swarmy melee unit. Other than that, no special abilities on them. And similar to how the Gene Stealers, all these gaunts you see here, including the one we will talk later here, the gargoyles, you can get a research which is called, is it Without Number? Gaunts Without Number. Basically all the gaunts you see here, if you research it very late, are for free again. The squad size they start with isn't the greatest, so you can see here they are okay. The Termagaunts are actually good in squad number, but these others especially gargoyles aren't the biggest in number, so if you want to have them on full size, you will still need to get use some resources to them. Your last tier 1 unit you have access to is your Raveners. You see a lot of Ravener games in the PvE scene because they're pretty good. They can be deep striked in, they're good in melee, no range capabilities, are relatively quick. They can, if they get deep striked in, I can show you quickly. They make a little burrow move here, which actually knocks down enemy units around them and deals some minor damage. The damage has been nerfed in previous versions quite a bit. The same burrow and unburrow damage is done if they burrow and unburrow here, and if they teleport, quote unquote, burrow underground. So then they have all this little knockback and damage. So this is very good in terms of mobility and utility. In tier 2 they get the upgrade that they move faster a bit, and of course they also get access to Devourers and Death Spitters. Some people do not really know what the difference is. The Devourers are more like single target anti-infantry, also light vehicles can be dealt with, and you have the Death Spitters, which is more of a small AoE morale kind of damage ability. So this is what this is supposed to be. Both available in tier 2, so you can then have ranged Raveners if you so want. Okay, this is all your tier 1 small units. In tier 2 you get access to your Gargoyles, which is your only flying unit. They are very small in squad size. This is basically to prevent them from getting stuck, because airborne squads tend to get stuck on map objects and stuff like that, so they are costing only 1 infantry or the brute cap, but you can get up to 7, so you can have more individual squads to make them not getting stuck somewhere. They are good against infantry and aircraft. They have only range capabilities. The range isn't too shabby, but that's all units in Sword can fire it isn't always as easily. The other tier 4 unit with small with brute cap is your Warriors. Your Warriors is your bread and butter in tier 2. They can be good in melee. You can see they are very fast once they have their Adrenal Glands upgrade. They can get armor, they can get Rending Claws for melee capabilities. They can also get Devourers, Death Spitters, and later on even Venom Cannons, which is your anti-vehicle capabilities. They have Synapse, they can use Bioplasma, which is basically a grenade. You see here, a grenade kind of ability. So they are very versatile and very fast and Synapse creatures, and yeah, they are very expensive though. Cost you also 4 brute caps, so they were spammed quite a lot in the previous versions, not as much now because they're very expensive, and yeah, both in resources also as in squad cap. But yeah, a very good unit all around. You would see like Warriors in every good unit composition for Tyranids, is what I'm trying to say. And lastly, over here we have the Ripper Swarm, can get up to 12 models over here. They can get a bit faster or charge a bit faster with the upgrade. Also can get some more damage with the upgrades. We have that still here. Yeah, they can get a Ripper Swarm Toxin Sacs, which increases the damage they deal. And the other one is that they are getting charges faster, which is increasing their charge speed, not their normal movement speed. Very good against buildings and infantry, it states here. I mostly have seen them, to try to backstab your opponent with building damage, but haven't seen them a lot. Before we jump to the bigger gaunts, we will talk about your commanders, which I forgot to do first, which I normally do first. In tier 1 you get access to your Brute Lord. It starts without a retinue of Gene Stealers, but a more Gene Stealer acclimatization you research, the more you can get. There are 3 stages, so you get +2 for each. It is a Synapse creature, so very important in tier 1, because in tier 1 you only have him as your Synapse creature, so most builds will have him around. Can get infiltrated the same way as the Gene Stealers can be infiltrated with a tier 3 research. In tier 2 it has the hypnotic gaze, which is basically a stun on an enemy target infantry. It doesn't work on commanders or vehicles, so only on infantry. And yeah, it's pretty well around, only melee capabilities however. The other tier 1 commander-like unit is your Lictor. This is your kind of assassin kind of unit, very good against commanders, very good sight range, I cannot show here. And yeah, gets infiltrated later on. There are 3 stages of Lictor acclimatization, which increases his stats, both damage and HP and stuff like that. And the second one of them increases, makes him invisible, infiltrated. And all these Lictor acclimatization increases his sight range. So I cannot show here, but I think the sight range, if you have the third upgrade, is really like half the map or something like that. So most people tend to forget to get Lictors later on in the game, or even forget to get the upgrades, but it's really good. He's also your tier 1 detection, which is very important. So if you want to have detection early on, you want to have some Lictors around. And lastly, you have your Hive Tyrant, which does not start as menacingly here with all the different upgrades. It is has ranged and melee capabilities. You can get change his arms basically depending on what you want. You can get venom cannons as anti-vehicle. You can get into melee with your lash, whip, and bone sword. The bone sword leaving them fatal against injured enemies. So the enemies with low HP get killed. Then you have a scything talons, which is basically good damage. And then you have also your Devourer, which does anti-infantry damage. I think these two are available in tier 2, as you can get the Hive Tyrant in tier 2, and these 3 are in tier 3. And there's the Barb Strangler. We will talk about the Barb Strangler later on for the Carnifex as well. Very long-ranged AoE anti-infantry damage. Currently one of the strongest weapons Tyranids have to offer. Will get probably some nerfs later on. You can also see some other abilities or passives on him. He is a Synapse creature. He has some toxic miasma, but needs to be researched, and has the ability Leech Essence. Leeches health from nearby enemies and grants it to the Hive Tyrant. Very good and important to keep it alive. He can also later get these wings. These are very late game upgrades, which allows him to jump. And also has this, you see this shield here. This is a currently tier 3 research, but was planned to be a tier 4 research because it decreases income damage by like 20 or 25%. So very big defensive bonuses by this shield over here you can get later on. And yeah, very good and important unit around in tier 2 if you want to have a Synapse creature around that can also fight pretty well. So Hive Tyrant also a unit you will mostly always see basically. Okay, this is your commanders, and now we can talk about your bigger brutes, which all cost your support cap. Firstly, we want to talk about the Zoanthropes, very hard name to pronounce. They are Synapse creature, as you can see here. They do AoE kind of damage, are good against infantry props with that, but they're also good against some vehicles and aircraft, most importantly. So they are a go-to anti-air unit you can have. The range isn't the greatest, but yeah, they have Synapse Aura and Toxic Miasma. Do they start with Toxic Miasma? I am not completely certain. I have to check it. And they have the Zoanthrope Catalyst. The Catalyst is similar to how the fighting juice of the Orc, what is it called? The Orc Medic Boy prevents units from dying, so it can be cast here. Requires your first acclimatization of these. These two, the Biowars and Zoanthropes, have an acclimatization they share. They start off with 2 models, but with the first one they can get up to 3. The second unit you can get from the Xenotype Brute Womp. Yeah, here you have also here the Xenotype acclimatization. Is your Biowars. Biowars are your artillery kind of unit. They are good against infantry and they are basic loaded, but can get these Bio-Essex Spore Mines, which basically exchanges their weapons or armor ammunition to be more anti-vehicle and anti-infantry. I think they can also hit aircraft, so they are also pretty good against aircraft. Very long range, you can see, are very fast for an artillery unit as well. Can change, as I said, the targets and unit ammo, you could call it, depending on what you fire. So very good. Both of these are limited to 2. From your Carnifex chamber, you have first access in tier 2 with the Screamer Killer Carnifex, which is basically your melee Carnifex, and then your Hellfax, which is a ranged Carnifex. You see it has 4 of these Death Spitters, I think, or Devourers, and can change 2 of them to Death Spitters. So they then it has more different weapons. It has 2 of the normal quote-unquote and 2 of the Death Spitters. In tier 3 you get access to your Carnifex, which is your first unit with demonic high armor, so very tanky. So even though these 3k here look high, it is demon medium armor, so it can be taken down. And then you have your Carnifex over here, which has demon high armor, which is very, very hard to bring down. It can get Toxic Miasma if you upgrade it, and has also these kind of grenade bioplasmas. Can get Barb Stranglers and Venom Cannons, and yeah, you will see them currently a lot with the Barb Stranglers around here. And yeah, you can here 2 of these weapons has been changed. In tier 4 you get also access to your old one eye, which is your like hero con effects you can think of. Can get Toxic Miasma with the upgrade. Is only melee but is very tanky. You can see he has 2k HP more and has the ability to rapidly regenerate himself. And lastly has the ability to use this little, makes a little dance and then it moves forward and brings unit in his way to be knocked all around. Your relic unit is your Trigon. Your Trigon is your relic unit, as I said, is really good in melee and only good in melee. Can be used this burrow and unburrow ability as well to knock back units. Has the same as the Ravenous, this little tunneling thing. And yeah, very mobile in a sense. And the bigger thing is this Trigon Bioelectric Field, which does AoE damage. As you see here, it also does some friendly damage against him and some friendly units. Not sure if this is intended, but this is how it goes. I thought this was fixed, whatever. And really good damage around him, so make sure to surround him with enemies and not with friends. So can be dealing a lot of damage with that. And lastly, your tier 1 Titan equivalent is your Hero Fund, a big unit, not the fastest. You can see here it takes quite a long time to move around, but has Synapse Aura, has ranged and melee capabilities, has Toxic Miasma, which needs to be researched, and lastly it has this Spore Cloud. Temporarily forces surrounding enemies to fight to get rid of these spores, thus unable to attack. So basically a weapon disabler. And does not work against Tyranids, only against enemies. So very good if you have them parked in the midst of an enemy, then he makes his little spores around so that the enemies cannot really fight back. Very good in that. And there's one last unit I want to talk about. This is your Spore Clusters. Your Spore Clusters you can deep strike in from your Spore Chimney anywhere on the map, and they will explode if they are near an enemy unit. This deals some damage to them and knockback, and most importantly it slows the enemy unit. So they explode and deal AoE damage and slow them. The slow is the big part of it. There's a very important thing is that they also cost influence. All the other units you saw here only cost requisition. Buildings cost influence, units cost requisition, but there's always a little exception. These are these Spore Clusters, because if you spam them too much, they can be a big nuisance, especially if you see here that if you rebuild them in multiples, you can have more of them on the field, and are limited to 5 and are very potent with that. But they can be very good, as what I'm trying to say in combat, were a bit too good currently. If you get them too much, you will delay your tech progress by quite a lot. I think this is all about the units I wanted to say, so we can now jump into the Techtrees, where I want to talk to you about some researches that I maybe have some skipped over, where they are in which tier and what are their tier strengths around. So see you in the Techtrees. Jokes on me, we are not heading to the Techtree yet. I have forgotten, but of course Tyranids are also a campaign faction featured in the campaign, so I want to talk about the Honor Gods units as well. You see them with a little aura around. You have a Broodlord around you can have right away, which can get some Gene Stealers with Gene Stealer Honor Guard right away without having to need to acclimatization. We will now check in live. You can get more if you get the acclimatization, and later on he is also affected by the infiltration research. You can get a Lictor, and the special thing about the Lictor is that it is infiltrated right away, so you do not need the infiltration research for it to be infiltrated. You also have some Gorns. You have your Homogorns, which start with your Leap ability right away, but you do not need the Extreme Clans, and you have a Termagorn, so they can get Devourers also right away in tier 1. Then you have some Gargoyles, which are just Gargoyles basically. You have Ravenous only 3 in the squad, but they start already with the ability to get some range weaponry, so you can get some tier 1 Ravenous in range. You also have some gene stealers, which does do gene stealer things. They get more units with acclimatizations and get research infiltrated also later on, so they get affected by the gene stealer upgrades, which is important. Another unit you can have is your warriors, also only with 3, but also get all your different weaponries right away in tier 1, so it can be very good in that sense. You have access to sun probes, which only have 2 squad size. Let's quickly check if they are affected by the acclimatization. I think they are. Quickly checking it to be sure. If you get acclimatization, you can get no. Okay. They stay with 2. Okay, interesting. But they get the sun probe cataclysm, I think, right away. If I have missed it, please tell me. But yeah, I think they have it right away. And lastly, you have a Screamer Killer Carnifex, a Melee Carnifex, and your Hellfax, which can also get the Desperate right away, which they can, I think, usually also. But there you have immediately some of these Carnifex on the field, which is very important in the campaign if you are facing like 2 versus 1 scenarios and stuff like that. Overall, nothing like super special, but very helpful with the early availability on all these different weaponries and abilities. So yeah, can make a difference in the campaign. So, but now we're heading over to the Techtrees. And here we are in the Techtree document, where you see all the different stuff they have enabled in the different tiers. It is, as usual, also available as a PDF in my Google Drive, link in the description. First, about the buildings, you can see that all buildings, as I said, have the Synapse and Toxic Miasma and stuff like that. You see also that most of the researches, the acclimatizations you see here, are in tier 1. And then go to tier 2, and for some even tier 3. You also see this. And these acclimatizations lead for Gene Stealers and Gauns in tier 4 to these without number research, which makes them free, but they have an increased building time to kind of compensate to them. And you also see these various researches mostly are in tier 3 for the Carnifex and stuff, and some are in tier 2 for the Gauns and Warrior kind of types. And of course also for your Gene Stealers. The Gene Stealers also have tier 3 researches to them. So it is mostly about buffing your units you can get early on, instead of having like a lot of different units you get later on. Is about the Tyranids. You can see that most units you get are enabled in tier 1 and 2. In tier 3 only a few, in tier 4 even only a few more. And yeah, as I said, mostly tier 2 and tier 3. So you need these upgrades to make these units worthwhile and yeah, stay potent throughout the tiers basically. About the tier strengths, Tyranids start pretty strong, I think, in tier 1. Most importantly with the Raveners, you see quite a lot of Raveners and Lictors are pretty good in tier 1. You can make Gauns also useful in tier 1. Spine Gauns are very cheap in terms of squad cap. And if you pair them with Homogons and Termagons, you can get quite a big swarm, especially if you with that you would need these Gaunt acclimatization, of course. You can also make Gene Stealers work against certain factions if you get the first Gene Stealer acclimatization. But yeah, they get really big in tier 3 if you get them all the way there. With all the upgrades, you can get very backstabby with them. Gauns can be really good in tier 2 as well if you got always the Gaunt upgrades, and then you can go also in these Gargoyles, but also can just power down your Homogons with your Adrenal Glands and stuff like that. Raveners and Lictors stay relevant as a support unit throughout the game, but are mostly importantly in tier 1 and tier 2. Raveners similar, they fall off a bit in the late game, but what stays relevant about these buildings are the Warriors, as I said, and the Hive Tyrant, which are available in tier 2 and can get some more upgrades later on. I would say the strongest tier for Tyranids is tier 2, where you get the Warriors, Hive Tyrant, and your support units, the first Carnifex. Tier 3 is also very strong because you then get your first Demon Armor High unit in tier 3, which is relatively early if you compare it to different factions, so they can be a problem for some factions to deal with. And tier 4 is, I think, okay-ish. Most importantly, if you want to go for these without number researches and or for your relic units, is really good. Your tier 1 Titan isn't like a tier 1 Titan tier in the traditional sense, as the Capillary Tower is not only for this, but also very good for your general income, basically. So that you unlock the hero fund is more like a quote-unquote bonus to it. So to repeat that, tier 1 is good, but can be dealt with. I think tier 2 is very good, and tier 3, your units. The best thing about tier 3 is that you have units on the field and you get upgrades to these units on the field. You do not really completely get new units. The units you get, which is only your carnifex basically, is very good in itself. So I would say tier 2 and tier 3 is the tier where you want to win games basically. The unit tech tree over here, I can't really tell you a lot because I have told you a lot already. One thing I was wondering while talking about is if Santropes have this doctrine method. They have it right away, which is pretty good for them. And about the honor guard units from the campaign, I have told you also that some of them get some additional, not additional, but get some stuff enabled right away. You can see here in the tech tree as well. So we can now jump into the build orders. And here we are on the tech tree document, as always, also in my drive. And for a quick explanation, this line separates like everything you see left you get from your starting resources, and all the things on the right you get before heading to tier 2. The Gaunt opener, I call it, is where you get basically your standard set of 2 Gene Stealers right away to capture units and your Brute Lord as your Synapse unit. And then you complement that with 2 Spine Gaunts for some even faster map control. So you can use them to cap or to fight, depending on how big the map is and stuff like that. Get 1 ranged unit, 1 melee unit, and then have a big blob of Gaunts to run around the map and do Gaunt things, swarm the enemy and try to get an advantage. You always want to have the Gaunt research with that, of course, because you're using Gaunts, getting up to 4 reclamation poles before heading to tier 2. A beginner mistake I saw in early Unification is that people forgot about these reclamation pools and just got to tier 2 and then had no economy. So I highly recommend to get at least 3 before heading to tier 2. Then is a Ravener opener, which is more or less the same as you saw before, but you get a Tyrannicus Spootspire and 2 Raveners. The Raveners, let's say the spotting for the Raveners to deep strike is the job of the Brute Lord. And you have time to get the first Ravener out, reinforce it a bunch and get it back in before you see the enemy on most maps. So then you have more Raveners right away to be a nuisance. The Raveners, as I said in the guide before, are very good in terms of harassment and mobility. You need to babysit them a bit because they aren't cheap. And yeah, if you need to reinforce them too much, this can be a big drain of requisition. Then you have the Gene Stealer opener, which you need a bit be careful because the Gene Stealers are so expensive to reinforce to not over commit, basically. The big upside from this opener is that you have some Gene Stealers for the Brute Lord to fight with. And yeah, the Gene Stealer upgrade is really cheap, so you can see you can get it more or less right away. Because if you get the Gaunty Brutespire, you pay 16, and you start with 20, you get 16, and this one costs 5. So you get more or less from the standard income your HQ gives you. You get enough influence to get this upgrade so that your Gene Stealers can be really good pretty fast. Then there's the Lictor opener, I call it. You get all the Lictors and then the Lictor upgrade as well. This is more of a faster tier 2 idea. So you get these Lictors and your Gene Stealers and just like slow the enemy and get some attention away from your base because you want to tech really fast. You always want to get Lictors, of course, if you fight against infiltrated units. So then you would need to get the Tyrannicus Spootspire and also get them in the Ravener opener, for example. You can also add a Lictor or 2 to this opener and be fine or even better. Because the Lictors, I haven't told you before, but they can also decap. They cannot cap, but they can decap. And then I have the kind of cheesy Spine Guard spam. This was really good early on and isn't as good, but is still good. The idea is that you get all these Spine Guards. You start off with enough pop to get this and even more if you want. And yeah, use them mostly in range, but get some units you can use them in ranged and melee. So you can use like 3 in ranged and then 1 in melee to fight off enemy squads. You always want to make sure that your Brute Lord is around and not being killed, because if this guy dies, this whole kind of rush fails. You also see here that I have input a turret here. Normally I do not recommend these turrets too much because they are relatively expensive influence wise for this, but for this kind of opener where you want to press the enemy right away, a turret can be very good, especially if you manage to set up shop against a strategic point of the enemy, getting a turret over there, then capping it and get a Spore Chimney out. This makes a big support point basically for your Spine Guard spam, which is also the last build order I have for you here. Yeah, as usual, we finish up the guide with a replay, and it's a really cool replay. Yeah, I hope I have it still around, hopefully. We will see in a second. And here we are on the example replay where we see Tokyo, Oguri, Sift Carrot as Tyranids, and the other side I am playing Renegade Guard. This is actually one of the games I played in preparation for my Renegade Guard Tekan Shogunate guide. So you see me playing Tekan Shogunate over here, and he's playing, as I said, yeah, Tyranids, going for 2 Gene Stealers and then a Tyrannicus Broodspire. About Tokyo, he is one of the guys, I would say, from the Korean or East Asia community. Pretty solid player, has some misplays here and there, but he is faced against me, which isn't the greatest player in history, so there you have that. So it should be a good match, and as I played the match, I know it's a pretty good match. I would have casted it anyway, so may as well get this for this guide over here. As I said, he goes for the Tyrannicus Broodspire. I immediately see that he doesn't go for a Brood Lord, so let's see if he does go. Okay, he goes for Ravenous, but no Brood Lord. That's interesting, so he will need to get these Ravenous into range of his buildings to be able to make use of the Synapse over here. Immediately building up the Spore Chimney, which is important. You can see you can build basically immediately because you have the global thing, and you see here immediately getting the Spore Chimney up, which is really nice. And here I am already with Take on Warriors. I think my idea was a warrior spam over here. So yeah, there's some Ravenous, but yeah, the Takan Warriors kind of hold into melee, but not as much. And why are they so low over here? I need to check something with these Ravenous. Maybe they're doing some bro damage to themselves. I have no idea. But yeah, my idea is basically to box him in. I like this aggressive moves on Shrine of Excellium because you can do just that. What you see here, he doesn't. He does the right thing and moves his guys here away. Gets the upgrade over here, so you can get more HP as well as some stuff. And there comes in the Deep Strike, also getting a Spore Mine, which is interesting. The cluster isn't the biggest over here, so the Spore Mine will not do the biggest blast over here. This is probably a some lost resources over here, but nice idea. Some micro on my part, so you see here some warriors getting high damage. But yeah, the more important thing I was trying to here is prevent him from this strategic point. But yeah, he does what you do in this situation, is just go to the other side. And then yeah, he can fight back over here using this Ravenous, splitting up very nicely. The question is, will he go for the decap or not? But other than that, he's good in the yeah, he does get a decap. Those guys going into melee, they are a little slowed by the heavy cover, but in return they will get some capabilities. You see here that they are got kind of, how should I say, stunned, but yeah, they got thrown around, but not thrown kind of by the grenade. He gets the decap and retreats, which is the good part. He can also probably just teleport out if he needs to. Gene Stealers are about to capture this. On this side, the Gene Stealers are getting attacked by Militia Rangers, so they will take a while. Let's see if he notices it. Yeah, he knows it will reinforce them, and the reinforcement rate is good enough that he will survive over here. He is a little low on requisition. These Spore Chimneys do increase in cost. That's something I forgot to tell you. Jesus, there's so much to tell you. They start off very cheap, but increasing in cost 25 requisition each, starting with 50. So it is 75, 100, 125, so this costs 150 to build. But yeah, you get a lot of influence. You get 4 reclamation pools over here, which is nice. Gets the units back in the Tyrannicus Broodspire, which is good. And now is the question, is he going to go for more weapon control, or is he going for tier 2? For tier 2 we'll be lining up shortly. It's 25 influence and 150 requisition, I think. So I think this should be able to get to tier 2 in really good time, you see here. And let's see if he immediately clicks it. Using his units for now. Yeah, let's keep the Hive Spire selected so we see once when he's doing it. Because currently he's floating a bit because he's busy microing these Raveners over here. But yeah, he could have gone tier 2 already. Or get another squad out. But yeah, there you see tier 2. Maybe 20 to 30 seconds delayed a bit. Can get more reclamation pools or save some influence to get a building and some upgrades right away in tier 2. But yeah, here the Raveners for now are doing really good damage against these Tekken Warriors over here, but I have managed and tried to get enough Tekken Warriors. This is actually, I saw, I think it was OC Klempe in the UGL Season 2 against Tyranids. He got like Imperial Guard and just got like 4 Guardsman squads just to outnumber these Raveners and some grenade launchers and whatnot to knock them down, so you can, yeah, basically make short work with them basically, and yeah, keep them at bay. But as he is on the way to tier 2 already, this should help you quite a bit in the yeah, gaming department over here. Sorry for the quick hiccup, I had to stop and start the recording a bit. Yeah, you see some aggressing over on his side here. His tier 2 is about to be done. He only has these Raveners still, but you see here there's a big economy boom on the backside. Well, this is 8 income, so the income isn't great yet, but it will be really good later on. And the Raveners still being used here to fight off these Guardsmen, using this tunnel ability to create effect over here for some stuff to knock these down, but there's always something firing, and you see here that he needs to reinforce so much that his economy is really bad, so he needs to run away. One squad is more or less about to wipe. See his income getting really high with these reclamation pools. Yeah, he's tunneling these out to keep them at bay. There's now the Death Spitters. The Death Spitters are your AoE morale damage, which is your prime usage, of course, against the Guard kind of faction. Getting the Carnifex Brute Chamber a bit far back. I would like to get him a bit forward so your units are a bit faster online, but he also doesn't want to yeah, lose these building right away against his Raveners, because there's one thing: if you cancel or delete a building, you will not get any influence back. You only get requisition back, but there's not a lot of structures which cost requisition. There's only one, which is your tier 4 building, and I think these add-ons of Hive Spire also count, I'm not sure. But yeah, a lot of damage dealt to these Raveners, which try to use their what are they called again? Death Spitters against the Guardsmen, but yeah, there's just too many. But the Carnifex Chamber is about to start, to finish, and then the question is, what does he go for? Melee or ranged? You will see here. Finish now, get another reclamation pool, so his economy isn't the worst. And yeah, now this looks really grim for him. Dodging the grenade kinda with this. And now it's the question, what does he go for? He has some requisition, has some influence, and he will get a Hellfax, which is your ranged Carnifex. So all of this is now depending on this unit. He will try to use some Death Spitters again to force back the Guardsmen over here, but map control wise this looks really bad for him. What he does have is a lot of influence, so I think he has the maximum 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he has the maximum amount of reclamation pools, so he cannot get any more reclamation pools with his influence. He will need to use the influence on buildings or taking up, one of the two. Taking up would be wise, because I think it's 50 influence and 300 powers requisition, so he could take up now. But he wants to get some warriors, which is also a nice idea. Let's see. But he decides to take up. So this is interesting. Very fast tier 3. The question is if he is able to do it. But it looks like I am allowing him to. Getting a third squad of Raveners. Okay, I do not think he has the Trinal clans research from them done. But there's the Hellfax coming in. But only one Hellfax will not be the end of the line. You can see here him moving in. It is demon armor, but it's demon armor medium, and you see the damage will surmount. He will deal quite some damage back, especially as in support with these Raveners. But here you see what you can also do with the Tekken Shogun. Just yeah, Banzai charge in and yeah, doing it like that. There's some militia rangers and some Taken warriors over here. So this Hellfax will go down eventually. I will lose some units around. Not sure whose is the better trade over here, but yeah, what is he going for? The Hive Tyrant, a good choice, especially once you're hitting tier 3. This will be very good. He needs to get another listening post, however, so he can get more requisition, because he is very much requisition scarfed. If I would have judged this situation better, now hindsight, I should have tried to force the issue against these Raveners, even if they are using Death Spitters and whatnot. I should have tried to force the issues before allowing him to getting on something. You see here, he's using Leech Essence right away, dealing some really good damage against all units around him. These Raveners using here in melee, so I think I even didn't notice the Hive Tyrant, because against the Raveners I would have won, but against the Hive Tyrant it's very hard to fight against. What is going on here? There's the Warrior Brute Adrenal Glands, which is also works on the Hive Tyrant, Raveners and Warriors, which increases their movement speed and damage dealt in melee. Yeah, so there you go. A good upgrade. You see then the Hive Tyrant is suddenly a lot faster. And yeah, what is he going for? Other than that, not a lot of acquisition left from him. He is getting... What is he going for here? Okay, he got the Barb Strangler, and we rarely see, can't really see the bullet, but you see here that it completely demolished these units around over here. His Raveners are kind of dead. And the Warriors? Did he go Warriors? No, Raveners. There's only one squad of Raveners and the Hive Tyrant, and that's basically it. And yeah, this is one example where this the Barb Strangler is a bit of an issue. It's a tier 3 weapon for a reason, kind of like a plasma cannon, and they're still doing quite a lot of damage. Now I have a Thunderbolt, because I thought he cannot really attack air, so might as well get a Thunderbolt. What is he going for? A Carnifex, so this is another unit that will be really hard for me to deal with. I will get some Spore Chimneys, I think, but he is playing objective-based gaming, going for the critical location. Decap barely gets it, almost losing his squad, but not losing it after all. So the take and hold counter is now being reset, and yeah, Carnifex over here getting into melee. Not sure if getting melee with Warriors against the Carnifex is the right idea. The answer is probably not the right idea, but yeah, you see his economy is absolutely very low, but the units he has are very good at what they do. So yeah, but it's only 2 units. It's the Carnifex and the Hive Tyrant, but it's with the Leech Essence and everything enough to fight this back. Using the Thunderbolt here to attack the Leech Essence, you see here, completely healed him back up, which is absolutely amazing. Carnifex using his Barb Strangler. Is it a Barb Strangler? Yeah, Barb Strangler to more or less deal with the infantry really well, and the Warriors will get some Venom Cannons to fight off the Thunderbolt, even using his grenade ability here to good effect. So yeah, killing a lot of units. Still does not have a lot of map control, only one Spore Chimney remaining really, and that's it, but he still has these reclamation pools intact. So it's an upside that you do not need to upgrade your listening post, because if you lose them, you still can have them in the back of your base. They are really frail. They are vehicle building low, and only 750 health, so they can be killed relatively easily. But yeah, the Thunderbolts will take a while to kill them, and the economy will go down even lower now. But yeah, he starts to getting some Warriors out, and his Warriors, I said in the guide already, are absolutely superb. I still managing him to get him off his points over here, but once he has some Venom Cannons, I do not think I can continue over here. We'll get another Spore Chimney over here. These are not the highest damage against buildings, but yeah. Here the Venom Cannons do their job over here. Trying to kill one more before to get out here, but the Venom Cannons, the range is pretty good, and the damage as well, so getting another Thunderbolt being killed, and another Thunderbolt will follow if I do not micro him. So this is a very expensive trade of mine. There's now these Warriors also intercepting, so this Thunderbolt. Okay, I think the Toxic Miasma even slowing air units. You can see here that the movement speed was very low. And now he has a pretty good army after all. Warriors, a Carnifex, a Hive Tyrant, all moving around relatively fast. Now getting the county Hive for some more, I think, warriors, I guess. You need some more infantry pop to get a third squad of warriors. And now, yeah, the Hive Tyrant and the Carnifex with the Barb Strangler and the warrior with the Venom Cannon is an absolutely amazing duo in the sense that you have anti-vehicle and building options with the warriors and anti-infantry options with the Carnifex. So there's nothing that I would think that can deal with it as easily. It would probably be melee units for the most part, because these warriors, I mean, they have the adrenal glands and can hold their own into melee. So is the Carnifex, but the Carnifex has... Does it lose a talon if it gets a weapon or not? The Hive Tyrant surely does. It starts off with... But it starts with ranged talents as well, so I'm not sure about it. But I think in melee I could have maybe charged it or something. I'm getting some Gene Stealers, of course, to get the capping duty so that his warriors are free. And yeah, he stopped the take and hold and the control area victory over here, so he is feeling happy as Larry, and now even going to the offense here. To my defense, or not defense, this thing I never built. So this is one of the reasons I didn't want to cast, because it was too shameful that I have like 15 minutes, I haven't rebuilt this point, so I have gotten a lot of income I didn't get, which is one of the reasons I've lost this. The other reason is that he did pack out a good strategy with the Hive Tyrant with Barb Strangler pretty fast. And yeah, the thing I try to do are now Ballista Maidens, but Ballista Maidens also get a lot of AoE damage by the Barb Strangler. You see here, the Barb Strangler is something I will look into balance-wise a bit more for the coming update. Currently, you see here, it's pretty strong. Like two-shotting Ballista Maidens and stuff like that is something, yeah. With the reload time it has and everything, the AoE is a bit too good, I think. I have some ideas in mind how to address the issue, basically. But yeah, he's now starting to win, because I have no idea how to deal with this very good combo of anti-infantry and anti-vehicle. In addition, with him now getting more economy upgrading, I think. Yeah, some listing posts for some more economy. But I told you in the guide that you do not need to upgrade like more than 1 or 2, because you get hit the limit of 1 influence per second pretty fast. Also something that I said can and should be addressed maybe in the future. But yeah, he's marching into my base and I have no idea how to deal with it. It was a very good game. I had him almost killed, and then he put out a miracle over here, and now I do not know how to face him, because he has now the economy back to sustain some losses as well. There's even now the Tengu General trying to get some pot shots. But yeah, I do not think she will be good enough against a full-on Carnifex over here. She tries her best, but winning but Carnifex is also pretty missing quite a lot. But yeah, down she goes. You see here that I am tier 3. So, but what do you get in tier 3? Basically, I should have gotten Mark of Corn and getting the Oni Ogrins. That would be nice, but I got the tsunami tanks over here with the advanced coil thingy, dealing actually some good damage, I think, against these units. But yeah, not enough in the end. So yeah, damn man, GG it is. And yeah, so this ends the replay over here. I think you saw some good Tyranid gameplay over here. I've seen some various Tyranid gameplay in the past, but this is also very good what he did. Not a lot of use of the Brute Lord, not a lot of Lictors and stuff, but very straightforward Raveners into tier 2, into Hive Tyrant, Warriors and stuff like that, so all the good stuff. As I said, you can also add some artillery and stuff, depending on what you need in the current situation. Okay, so this finishes up this updated guide. If I forgot to tell you something, please put it in a comment. If I have some false information provided here, also please put it in the comments. If you liked it, you could leave also a comment or subscribe. That would be lovely. If you want to support me a bit more, there's also the option to get a member and yeah, stuff like that. But as usual, guys, thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.